All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar this morning, or this afternoon, I guess, because it's lunchtime. We have Tom McDonald and Jennifer Simoens with us. They're going to be presenting today. Our topic, hang on a sec, is boosting profitability with ERP. I think as I emailed out to everybody, this session is more than that. I think what we're really going to cover off in this session is really kind of, if you are looking right now with the current climate in terms of what's happening with tariffs and some of the other things that are going on, this is a great opportunity for you to consider looking at. Jennifer and Tom are going to present some interesting ideas around engineer to order, which is a huge process that a lot of people, and I've talked with a lot of companies across Alberta, struggle with. And with everything else that's going on, it's probably a good time to revisit it, because if we can get more efficiency in our processes, that always helps. So that's going to be a bit of the discussion today, and Tom and Jennifer are going to walk through what tools they use, and then after, we're going to have a really good interactive Q&A after that. We can talk about this some more. So before we get started, just a couple of little things in terms of updates and housekeeping. We do have one more webinar before Smart MTX WMTS on April 9th. That's next week with Wes Patterson. He'll be presenting, and so we should have a really good webinar. So I really hope we can have you guys come out for that. And that'll kind of sort of be the end of our spring session in terms of our lunch and learns for the spring. We'll have some new ones coming probably in, I would say, later May, June. So stay tuned. We have our event April 8th at Big Rock Breweries with EMC. So I would encourage you, if you're in Calgary, to come out to that event. And then April 9th through 11th, we have WMTS Smart MTX conference in Edmonton at the Expo Center, which I'm going to pass this over to Cindy, is going to be presenting at in day one. And we also have on day one, we'll have a breakfast with Premier Daniel Smith. So please come out. Great opportunity for you to chat with her. She's going to be wanting to meet with manufacturers with everything that's going on, and also great opportunity to talk to her about kind of what she's got planned and some of the things that they're doing to support manufacturing here in Alberta. So all very exciting stuff. So I'm going to quickly pass this over to Cindy. She can give you guys an update on her project with EMC and some of the wonderful things we're doing with EMC over the next little while. Take it away, Cindy.
Great, thank you. Thanks, David, and thank you to the MEE Cluster for inviting me to talk a little bit about EMC. The MEE Cluster is an important partner with EMC on the project that we're running. And thank you very much to Tom and Jennifer for letting me just kind of slide in here to do a brief introduction of EMC. EMC is Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium. We are a national nonprofit. We've been, I don't even think I need to show my slides. I'll just kind of, a not-for-profit organization. We work for manufacturers of all sizes, sectors, and levels of sophistication. And our mission is to elevate Canadian manufacturers to achieve world-class capability and sustained growth through peer-to-peer networking, sharing, learning, and providing validated, relevant programs and services. The project that I'm working on is a labor market information project where the goal is to create connectivity between educators and manufacturers so that we get some information about, well, what do manufacturers need in terms of skills and labor, and then how can we get that information to educators so that they're providing just-in-time training. The focus for this project is on youth and newcomers, and the first part of it was 2 surveys, one to manufacturers, one to educators. We've collected data to date from about 315 manufacturers. We're still working on collecting data from educators, and there an extremely important part of this equation. So if you've got networks in that area, please reach out to either David or me, and we will get that survey out to you. I just wanted to say, oh yeah, sorry, before I go there, David talked about the workshop that we're hosting in Calgary on April 8th, and this is the first of a series of regional workshops where we're going to unroll the data that we've collected and then provide a space for a multi-stakeholder audience. Everybody can get together and talk about what are the challenges that they're facing, what are the solutions that they want to talk about, and how can they help to inform EMC so that we can write reporting and a roadmap that will end up helping manufacturers and educators and stakeholders and employees in Alberta. Aside from that, we're doing a really important project right now, just sort of as a response to what's happening with Canada-US trade relations, and that is a supply chain and productivity initiative. We've also got a survey for that initiative. If anyone is interested in filling it out, you'll be able to end up being part of a database of suppliers and manufacturers that will help organizations and businesses understand and know where to get their Canadian-made products. So I guess in a nutshell, David, that's it. So thank you so much. If there's any questions, I don't know if you've got my information, but certainly you've got David's information and we can communicate that way.
Yes, please reach out. If you do have any questions, we can pass anything on to Cindy. She's as a partner, she's a pretty integrated part of our team here. So we talk on a daily basis. So we'll make sure that she gets that information if you are interested in participating in those projects. And I think I know it's a little bit different than the talk that Tom and Jennifer are going to be giving today, but I think process improvement, the actual side of getting more efficient, but also the labor skills piece is a huge part. And if we don't have the training in place to support the next generation of people moving into manufacturing, what we're about to talk about becomes much more difficult because we need skilled people that can actually implement the tools. So without any more ado, I'm going to pass this over to Tom and Jennifer. I'll let Tom and Jennifer give their bio, and then they can hop on and they'll be giving our presentation for today. Take it away, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and talk to you later, Kate.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, David. I'm Tom McDonald. I'm the Chief of Staff here at Discovery Solutions, which pretty much just means you work on different projects throughout the company to make it as efficient as possible. One of which is partnering with MEE Cluster to present to manufacturers across Alberta and hopefully give some tools to help strengthen the manufacturing industry within Alberta. Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
For sure. Sorry, had my camera off there. So I am Jennifer Simmons. I have worked with Discovery in my latest stretch for about 6 years, doing mainly new customer implementations and supporting our existing client base. Previous to that, I was a Discovery customer actually, and used the software for a period of 15 years at 3 different companies I managed, all in the oil field service and supply sector, but for the bulk of the time was with a custom manufacturer. So lots of depth of knowledge on how to fit a square peg in a round hole when it comes to ERP. And I've definitely dealt with a lot of the actual on the floor operational challenges that it comes to when selecting, new software. So that's kind of who I am.
Awesome. So today we're going to walk through a brief overview of who Discovery Solutions is, what our software looks like, the typical pain points and challenges for MTO ETO manufacturers, specifically within Alberta, and then we'll walk through a quick demonstration of the software and what that would look like if implemented. So on this first slide here, so Discovery Solutions is a Calgary-based enterprise software company. All of our employees are based in Canada, and our company is based out of Calgary. We've got approximately 40 years of experience in in multiple different industries. Our mission is to empower the hardest working industries with ERP solutions that drive success and strengthen the bottom line, hence the title of this presentation. So our software, DMS ERP, is engineered to tackle operational pain points across numerous industries, with all 5 of the modules you see on screen here interconnected. So that's manufacturing, distribution, field service, rentals, and accounting, all of which come out of the box. So there's no hidden fees to add on different modules as your team grows. So originally DMS was created to service Alberta's manufacturing and supply companies, but as our client base grew and their operations expanded, we adapted to build out the other 3 modules that you saw on the previous screen to provide a complete solution. Throughout those 40 years, we've been honored to partner with such amazing clients, many of which have been with us for well over 10 years now, and I'm sure share very similar workflows to some of your businesses. So let's start with 5 of the day-to-day challenges we've seen with manufacturers before they implement an ERP system. So you've got long lead times, BOM integrations that may not work with current software. You've got BOM revisions, limited cost visibility, all of which kind of leads to, well, typically delays, cost overruns, and hinder the bottom line growth of the companies that we deal with. So how do we solve these problems? So by putting software in place to streamline your day-to-day workflows, you're able to realize short-term benefits like simplified order entry, importable BOMs, capacity and scheduling insights, invoicing as you hit key milestones throughout your process, and you gain real-time visibility into your financial standing on a per job basis. And then if you take a step back and you look at the longer picture, all of these day-to-day solutions compound to provide stakeholders with actionable intelligence, which ultimately just provides you the tools to then increase profitability throughout your company. Because ERP in general is, or most software that you put in place within a business is a tool to then be used by the people making the decisions. And that's kind of what we aim to do with our DMS ERP. So depending on your business, you'll likely use multiple modules like most of the clients that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. For example, you manufacture to rent, you manufacture to sell, any other combination like that. But today we're going to focus on the manufacturing module as common ground for everybody here. And in about 2 minutes, we'll show you a quick demo of what that software looks like. So with that in mind, what should you be looking for in this demo, and how does an ERP actually help with profitability? I'd keep in mind the day-to-day benefits that you see through the previous slides and what that looks like within your own company, and compound that over a year or 2. So ideally, you'll be able to see how those little small changes can equate to the long-term benefits shown on this screen. Which I guess is, access to real-time data so you can optimize schedules, reduce lead times, identify bottlenecks. You get complete visibility into your inventory positions, so you minimize the risk of stockouts or overstocking goods. Real-time detailed cost tracking that's integrated with the finance and accounting modules that you get with DMS ERP, and the ability to adapt to varying production volumes and different workflows. So even though we've been around for 40 years, we continuously make improvements to the software to help better support the manufacturing industry over time. Looking at this specific module, we've redesigned the user interface for mobile and tablet use to give the people on the shop floor an easier time navigating the system. We've updated our digital time card entry and our real-time inventory consumption, so you can then record time and consumables directly to the job that tech is working on. And then we've also enhanced our labor management review portal, work order scheduling, approval processes, all of which kind of helps the supervisors improve workflow or workforce management. So that is a quick intro to who Discovery is, what we do, and then we're going to focus on the manufacturing module within this demo. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Tom. So I thought I would start quickly or right off the bat by explaining a little bit of our main sign-in navigation kind of dashboard. So we're working, or we've designed it to work off a bit of a tile setup, kind of like an app type idea. It is a browser-based application. So I'm going to click into the work orders tile here in a second. But what this does is it allows us to work with our customers to really customize the layout of the screen so that users within your organization are literally only seeing the tiles or applications that they are that they have access to. So from a user navigation standpoint, it's very easy for training and onboarding because it's not overly busy. So there will be super users in the company that will see, you know, potentially every tile that other users have access to, but you can really tailor it and kind of make it your own look and feel. So when I click into the work orders tile here, you'll see that there are a variety of tiles, and you can have users have access to some or none of these tiles based on sort of what access they should have. And we can call out some tiles like this work with work orders tile here, which is more of like a job costing review type tile, versus manage work orders, which is kind of your doing tile where you would actually, you know, go to initiate a work order on the fly. So with all of these, we call them NGVs or NTAs, where you can actually do transactions within the grid views. We've designed these grid views to look and feel very much like an Excel type spreadsheet idea. They are very, very easy to work with when it comes to changing columns around, changing sorts, and all that kind of stuff through the action buttons that you see kind of along the top of my screen on the right-hand side here. So when I click into columns, for example, I can see all available columns in the data set down the left, and on the right-hand side, I can see all of the selected columns in my view. So if it comes to a particular user and they prefer to see the customer name at the top, they can drag and drop. You can drag and drop, you know, other columns over. And when you click apply, it'll just change the layout on the screen. So in addition to that, we've made it very easy for users to customize their views by saving personal views that will appear in the drop-down list. So usually my recommendation would always be name them intelligently, not Jen's view for everything, so that other users in the company can leverage, you know, using each other's views, or you at the company corporate level can set user views that you want to deploy then out to staff in particular kind of areas. So that's these save as and then save as default, so that when you click into a screen, you don't always have to shift the data around. You can, you know, really kind of make it your own. The second part of permissions is when it comes to the actual actions within any of the NGVs, you've got these right clicks, right? So you can authorize users to specific ones or all in kind of like an easy path. But if you really, really want to, you know, sort of narrow it down and really tailor it to what users can access, that's kind of how that goes there. And then the action buttons like create and audit and all of these are also user-based permissions that you can tailor and structure in that way. So what I'm looking at here is a list of all of my, you know, open and active work orders, right? So in Discovery, we support multiple ways of creating work orders. You can manually create them, which is kind of using the create button in this NGV and manage work orders. Work orders can be created from a sales order. So if I add a manufactured item or manufactured line to a sales order for a customer, it can automatically create a work order linked to that sales order behind the scenes. And we use the sales order prefix with a suffix indicating the line number on that particular sales order to really tie your work orders back to your sales orders with 100% kind of visibility. So what I'm displaying under this, the DO 100-123, you'll see that I've got my line number 2, but then I've got this AO suffix. These are what we call subassembly work orders. So we do support nested bill of materials, whereby if you add a standard manufactured item into the work order details, when you open it, if you are in a stock out position or don't have enough stock to cover that, you know, sort of standard component that you may make to order or have in stock, then we can actually throw out a subassembly work order that would retain the same order prefix with just a suffix indicating that it's a sub work order of that kind of parent, so parent-child kind of relationship. The other type of work order that we support is what we would call like continuous or overhead type work order. So in this example here, I've got somewhere I've manually assigned the work order number to be a unit number. So if you are a company that has, you know, a fleet of trucks or things like that, using work orders to capture costs so that you can analyze costs on your fleet can be very valuable as well. So those are just the different types of work orders here. So I've got this work order for this flare stack already created for Brammer here. So I'm just going to go into change mode here to show you some of the available fields. And these are the fields that you would see on just a brand new work order to create right off the bat. So we do support work order types, so you can set up as many different work order types as you'd like. So if you're somebody who manufactures for stock as well as customer orders, that can come in handy when you're trying to slice and dice your work order list so that you can, you know, prioritize certain tasks or just isolate one type from the other. We support multiple warehouses in the system. So if you've got different stocking locations or different, you know, regional facilities that you're manufacturing out of, this is where your actual inventory usage will be pulled from, is the warehouse that you define on the order header. So in the item here, what these are is basically they equate to either a bill of materials or in Discovery, we call them templates, which we like to think are just a bit more sophisticated because instead of just containing parts and pieces, we can also layer them up with both labor estimates as well as other cost type items such as, you know, shop supply recoveries, paint, things like that, that you may not want to track from an inventory perspective, but you do want to assign some cost to your work order for, you know, to assess sort of overall profitability. So I'm picking this CLB 2000 flare stack. So behind the scenes in my item master, I've set up a generic bill of material for this thing. You can start work orders with blank templates that just have maybe your routing structure, which we're going to get into in a second here. If you are more of a custom manufacturer than somebody who builds things that are standard. You can build into your custom templates, though, things like any overhead recoveries or, you know, labor activities that would be common to that type of work order overall. So you can put a description, you can put a whole big story of text. And here's the interesting thing here is drawing. So if I'd have had a drawing linked right to my flare stack template, that drawing would have flown through and been reviewable here at the work order level. If you are somebody who's more of a custom manufacturer, you can just attach your drawings on the fly manually versus having them automatically flow through the system together. But we do support both options there. We do have some auto serial number assignment rules that you can set up that use some kind of logic based on, you know, item and or work order number, or these fields can be user supplied as well. You can define how many that you want to make. I'm going to go with a one-to-one relationship here. We do offer some scheduling in the software as well. So you can either do a user supplied high level start and end dates that are manually kind of updated, or in your employee master, you can code your employees to a work center and a labor code. And then if you have those corresponding work centers and labor items in your work order estimates, we can then help you with some shop loading based on parameters that you set up to sort of spit you out an overall schedule for your facility as well. So there is some scheduling capabilities here as well. The last thing I wanted to touch on this original setup page is the automatic backflush flag. Only really useful for standard kind of components, whereby you would have an estimate for a work order and you would lay it in and you would say, I want to backflush all these items because I know that when we build this, we are going to use 100% of what we put in the estimate. So the backflush utility, when it is turned on, when it comes to recording materials from the shop, it doesn't necessarily have to be a human activity. It can just be a software driven activity that, you know, a user calls and says automatically backflush and record all of the estimates in there. If you are manually creating work orders, we do have pricing rules, so you can set up some parameters within the software to help you determine what the pricing should be. So if I was starting this, more from an estimate versus an actual work order at this stage, I might have used some auto price or cost plus gross margin type rules to come up with the pricing. In this case, I've just supplied it a flat quoted price. We do allow you to add customers to the customer to either the shipping or the billing tab. And when you do so, if this is truly a customer driven work order, then we can also lay in customer price contracts that would pull into the pricing on this particular work order and or estimate if you were starting this from a quote versus a work order directly. We do allow some other tracking as well if you want to track who the salesperson was, ordered by info, and then these tags here, inspected by, service by, shutdown. These are user defined tags that we just provide some fields in the software that you can then provide your verbiage, and it's really simple for us just to override the text with other tracking info that you may want to track within your organization. In the scheduling tab, this just speaks a little bit more to, how we can offer some break-in scheduling, if we, start out by scheduling everything kind of median at priority 5, we can then, break in and say, rerun the schedule if I suddenly assign this work order to be a priority 1, and then we can also provide schedule to certain completion dates or override dates as well. So that's kind of scheduling. So I'm going to pop into routes. So routes are basically just a way of dividing up an overall job or work order into subsections. So in this example here, I've got mine kind of designed to be more of a package where I'm putting together multiple components to kind of arrive at a finished good. So I've got a step or a routing for engineering and design, one for a structural skid, one for a vessel, and so on and so forth. So what these do is they allow you to divide up your estimate for the overall finished good into different buckets. So you can close this and you can actually track progress or sort of progress complete against the different phases of a more complex build. You can absolutely get away with one route if you are somebody who has, is manufacturing something on a smaller scale that doesn't have as much complexity and has a smaller bill of materials, that is, only 20 or 50 lines worth. So I'm going to go into add mode here, and then I'm just going to look into this pressure vessel. So I'm going to do a quick change on it. So here you can actually supply different drawings or have layered in drawings for each routing or subsection of your job. And you can code each of these to different work centers within your facility. So I'm going to say that the pressure vessel is going to get built out of my vessel area, and then the employees in my employee master that work in that area would then get coded to this work center as well. So that's kind of how the work centers work there with that. And these drawings, when you attach them here, I should have mentioned, are accessible and available in our manufacturing ops software, which I'm going to show you in kind of the next phase. So it's not, you don't have to double attach or double, do any double duty that way. So I'm going to pop into the details in this pressure vessel here. So in here, these would be items that came potentially from the template. So I've got an estimate against some welding for 240 hours. I've got, some materials. If I hover over them here, I'm going to go into new details or add mode just to show you what adding details on the fly might look like. So if I come in here and I click scan, this is giving me access to scan through my entire item master. Right, so you can see that I've got a mix of items here. I've got some that are set up as IN, which would relate to inventory. I've got some that are BO or buyout, meaning I've set this item up intentionally, knowing that I never want to stock it, but I would like the ease of availability to add it to a work order and or purchase it. I've got labor items. I've got manufactured items, which could be, like I mentioned before, a subassembly component that would pop out a child work order. So if I come up here and I just search up an item, it'll just narrow down the search, and then I can just double click it to select it. So whether you are somebody who's going to have some framework to start or whether you're adding on the fly, this is kind of how you can go to add your items. And you can adjust cost and adjust price as required right while you're in here. So the other interesting thing with adding items is if you have items that are buyouts or non-stock items that you know you need to purchase, right from here based on the item type, you can handle and manage your buyout requests. So when I click up here to manage buyout requests, what we're going to see is that I have already pre-assigned a couple and done them in advance just so you could see what the PO number assignment would look like here on screen. So I can see these two have been purchased already, but these two up here from Acklands have not. So if I check on Acklands, for example, and get into supplier and costing, I can come in here and update the supplier as required. So if in this instance, Acklands is normally my prime vendor, but for whatever reason, I'm going to get it from a different supplier, I can just scan through my supplier master and update that as required. The other thing I can do down here is modify the cost. And when I modify the cost here, this is a one-time change for this work order and not a permanent change to my item master. So if, for example, I knew that in this case, I needed this in a rush or whatever the case may be, I knew it was going to be $50 this time, I could add that in. The other thing to note here with the cost categories is Discovery supports a sophisticated landed cost formula. So this is the domestic cost formula that I'm reviewing right now. So in here, I've layered it with a bunch of different parameters. So I've got my supplier list, a discount, and then freight. So whether it's dollars in Canadian or native funds, percentage in native funds, or just an overall freight value. I can add that specifically to the landed cost formula, and this will essentially make my item receipt cost when I receive it $60 that will actually hit my work order WIP when this purchase order gets received. So I'm going to update this. So once I've done my cost and supplier updates, then I would want to check it on to purchase it. So because these two are coming from the same vendor, I'm going to check them both on at the same time, and I'm going to click assign PO. So while I'm in the work order mode here, I'm assigning it a temporary PO, and when I fully exit the work order maintenance kind of program is when it will get assigned an actual purchase order number. So I'm going to select due date here, and then I'm just going to click update. So you see I've got my temporary PO here, and I'm going to complete here. So now I've got, more items added here, and I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to exit out. So that's how you can work with the routings, add to them. We also have import utilities to import bill of materials into particular routings or into, kind of the work order overall. So depending on how you're sort of coming from that, we can kind of support all ways to get data into the actual work orders. So the one actual thing I wanted to touch on otherwise is I'm just going to pop back into details here. So with traditional labor items, like something like the bee welder, I'm supplying an estimated number of hours. In this case, I'm saying it's going to take, 18 hours for this job at this cost at this price. When it comes down to job costing in Discovery, you have a couple of options. You can either have the employee's actual rate of pay hit the job based on what we've set up in the employee master for the labor cost component. You can have the employee's rate of pay plus a burden, or you can use the labor code supplied average cost, if you will, to use to update your work order. So it kind of just depends what you want to do from a costing perspective and how you want to see the labor costs be attributed to the work order specifically. So this is an example of a labor item where we are just supplying a flat number of hours for the estimate. But the other type of labor item that we support is a labor item that has operations hours. So this is just an example using some other data within a service order, which works kind of the same way on the back end as work orders. So these particular labor codes are set up as a quantity of one, but have an operation hours component. So where this can come in really handy for manufacturers is when you're doing estimates. So if you are, for example, a welding shop, you could say, you know, a 2-inch weld is, you know, 1.5 hours. So when you're doing your takeoffs and your materials, when you are actually working up your estimate, you could supply a number of quantity of that type of weld, which would give you a, you know, total estimate for the actual operations hours in that way. So it can make estimating really simple. So like, you know, if I was to, you know, clean and defrost these drain tubes, it's going to take me half an hour, but I know I need that to do that one activity. So hopefully that's kind of clear with how that operations hours is fitting in. More often than not, these would be used for the estimating component, not the recording of actuals, because it's not like your guys in the shop are going to record how many 2-inch welds they did that day. They are just going to record a number of hours against that particular work order and or routing. So we would do the, you know, sort of estimate to actual on the total labor, from the sum of the operations hours to the actual recorded on the floor. Hopefully that makes sense there. All right, so I'm going to save out of this work order. And I'm going to pop over to what we call our Discovery Ops Manufacturing Framework. And I'll make this a little bit bigger here. So what this is it's a browser-based application that is designed to be complementary to DMS proper. So what it's basically a watered down entry portal for work orders designed to be more user-friendly for your shop floor users, right? So I'm going to click into this work order 1361, which is the example I was showing in the work order setup. It's angry. There we go. So all of the information that I'd set up at the work order header is displayed here. And as Tom mentioned, this browser-based application is designed to fit properly on mobile devices, whether it be tablets or cell phones. So that's why you kind of see these bigger kind of layouts as it works down, because it's designed to be scroll worthy on mobile devices. So all of the information that I set up on the work order header is here for my shop floor users to review. And up here, if I click the little paperclip next to job information, you can see that my drawing that I had attached, or that was attached to the work order and or template, is here and can be accessed by anybody on this device that has access to this particular work order here. When I click into details, this is where all my routing information is stored. So if I click into routing 3, which was the pressure vessel that we were looking at, underneath here in the job summary, this is a spot where your, you know, supervisors or, you know, whoever has access to actually update notes could write progress updates by day, by date, things like that. You know, track the story of what's sort of happening here. Here, I also have document attached. So if I click here, we can also provide links here to your inspection forms, fillable forms. It's just routing to sort of your documents so that if somebody's in here, they can see which particular inspection forms they need. They can click it, and then right from here, they can fill it in, and then they can attach it back and save it with this work order. And all of the documents that are saved here are captured and stored in a drive link that you can have certain users have access to, that can all be accessed within one list versus coming in and clicking into each particular job. The other neat thing is if you are on a device with a camera, you will see, instead of just the select files button here, more like a traditional like laptop or desktop type scenario, you would see a camera button. So you can take progress pictures really easily on the fly and store them right at this routing. And of course we keep the, you know, date and time and everything that those were captured at as well. So you can do that over multiple days, however sort of the flow works. You can manage opening, closing the routing status as it completes or moves through the facility. And you can track actual start and end dates for when these things actually, when it actually hits the floor or actually starts being worked on, so that you can track estimate to actual as well if you are working in the scheduling at all. We do have a documents complete toggle. It's, some people want it just for QC tracking and accountability with staff. And then down here at the bottom, this is where we're going to see all of the different items that made up the template for this pressure vessel kind of routing. So I can see the item type, whether it's labor. If labor has already been recorded, I can see estimate to actual here. So if I'm the shop foreman or a supervisor, this will tell me really easily where I'm at and where I'm going over. If it's something more inventory related, like down here at the bottom, I can see the quantity required, quantity used to date, my available on-hand stock position in my facility right now. If I scoot over to the right, I can see, you know, also some location tracking. If you are using bin location tracking, this can help, you know, obviously guide folks for where to go to pick stuff up. And then I've got, if these items were buyouts, I can see the purchase order number that they were ordered on, what the PO status is. So closed means it's been received. Some are still on a pending PO, meaning that's not even yet been ordered, and the other status would be ordered. So this gives total visibility at a glance to your kind of shop floor managers as to where things are at within each of the jobs as they progress. When somebody needs to record stuff, if you are the type of facility who records item by item, you just click into the shopping cart, note how many you used. If you are using secondary tracking in the software, whether it be our advanced materials management for heat numbers or lot numbers or trace back to POs, things like that, you would note that here. Or if it was serial track, the serial numbers would apply in this list as well. So I'll just post some usage here on that gasket, and you can see sort of that the quantity used will update. And this actually updates because we are fully integrated ERP. It will remove that to from inventory, and it will update the GL transactions in accounting in real time. So that's how the material usage works. If you're somebody who uses more of the backflush features, so in here in manage approvals, when that section of the job was done, you can expand it. You can select the routing that you want, and you can select backflush and then run the backflush. And what that would do is just record the materials fully based on the estimate that was set up in there. So you don't have to go item by item. You would just check on, use everything in the routing, backflush, and away you go. We also have, through the manage approvals, job sign-offs and all kinds of stuff like that. So you can complete, you can reopen, you can sign off, all kinds of good stuff through the approvals. The next piece I wanted to touch on here in the manufacturing ops framework is time card entry. So time card entry is kind of one of those dirty words in manufacturing. How do we get it done more timely? How do we not chew up data entry resources? How on earth can we read this guy's writing? So we've designed this to be, you could literally deploy manufacturing ops with just time card entry and have tablets set up in the facility, since nobody likes anybody to work off their cell phone or have them anywhere near shop floors in this day and age. You could have them do this and just literally give them this single option just to collect their time. So unlike the material usage and other utilities within ops, typically time card entry is not automatically posted because nobody has that kind of trust level with anybody to get it right at the first pass. So basically they can key in their work order number, select which route they're working on. If they were defined in the employee master to only work in one particular routing or work center, those would come up by default. And if they had a default labor code, that would also come up. They can still modify it, but we can set it up so that their defaults come up. The date's going to always default to today's date, and the employee will default to their employee number because of the user ID that they log in with. And then they just simply put their task hours. So perhaps I worked 3 hours on this job, and then I worked on a different job. I can select another job and then submit my hours for that as well. So once the employees have submitted their time cards under the labor management option, in here, basically your supervisors or shop foreman would likely filter this by date and look at the day prior. They could even filter it by employee. So what they're doing here is making sure that the employee has their hours coded to the right projects and has the right number per day, right, at a high level. So when they do this, the supervisor can modify it by clicking the pencil. So usually most people have their employees record everything to straight regular time, and then a supervisor or manager might do the overtime allocation, or you just record everything in real time. So if this was the case and it was really 2 and 1 based on how it is, then you can just modify that as well. So this is kind of how this works. The time report is exportable to Excel by clicking on this little button here. So whether you're somebody who likes to review on screen or more in an Excel format, we can do that. If everything is approved, you just check on for the day and then you click update work order. So it's that update work order that actually takes the costs for that labor and posts it into the work order. And if you're somebody who has implicit trust, we can just have the time card entry post direct too. So there's kind of some layers there. We do offer some little Gantt chart scheduling within the manufacturing ops framework. So I'll just shrink this over and scoot to the end and expand my 1361. So if I'm looking at 1361 here, which is the work order we've been working with here, I can see the actual start and end dates and how this is progressing against my overall budgeted time or duration for this work order. So just a high level way to track and sort of see in a visual representation. In addition to that option, we do also have some job planners or scheduling reports that we've created in the software using our Reporting Central tool. So we can slice and dice your schedule, whether you want to see it by work order or by work center. So this is showing just a couple different work centers and how the duration and it can look. So when you run the schedule, it's picking up kind of your latest and greatest scheduling data as well in an Excel format, so you can kind of move it around or visualize it in a different way. So that's manufacturing ops. So if I go back here.
Hey, Jennifer, we have a few questions. We're coming kind of close to time here.
Yeah, no worries.
Not to cut you off. I know you've got lots more to show, but we are in a lunch and learn, so we only have actually 12 minutes left. And I know there was lots of questions here that people wanted to ask prior to you guys. But I mean, we can definitely, I'm sure that if they want more information around this, you guys could schedule an 100%. Actual, for those who are interested, a full demonstration, right?
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I have some questions for you guys. Actually, I'm going to start with one here that that actually I thought was actually a really good one. What are the most common mistakes that companies make when implementing your software, and how could they be avoided? So that's one question. I think we had a few people that were kind of interested in pursuing looking further at ERP systems. In terms of engineering to order software, what would be some of the pitfalls that you guys would encounter?
Most of the time it's trying to be too complex and trying to add in too much complexity. My advice is always walk before you run and set it up in a more basic framework, because you can always grow into it and add in the other functionality. So start small.
Perfect. Tom, do you have anything that you might want to add as well too?
No, I think that sums it up perfectly.
Cool. Here is another question that actually I've gotten from. So we have the Q&A open right now. So for anybody who is interested in answering questions or has any questions for Tom and Jennifer, please speak up right now. We'd love to hear your questions. This was one I was talking with. Oh, okay. We have a question here. Angela. Oh yeah, you already put that. Thanks, Angela. Angela's just putting that out there for everybody. We do actually have another one here too. This is a good one. I know actually I had a good conversation with one of our members yesterday. How do you ensure that the software aligns with existing business processes rather than forcing kind of, so if the business has spent some time putting together a process that they feel is efficient, and how do you align if it doesn't fit directly into the system? What are some of the strategies you've used in the past?
So Discovery has no set requirements for how the software must be used. So through the implementation cycle, we do what we call business process mapping and analysis, and we usually do it on site with our customers where possible. So we do a deep dive into, we do almost reverse demos in your current software. How do you do it? What do you do? What are the must-haves? What are the need-to-haves, right? And usually before we get to that point, we've gathered all of your master file data so that after that deep dive process kind of walkthrough with you, with your actual users, is we do what we call interactive modeling sessions. So we take what we've learned from those findings and we do demos through the software with your group and say, based on what we've learned, we think you would use it this way. And it's a collaborative approach to either adding in more or trimming back, right? So we'll, kind of set it up how we vision it in mind with everything that we've learned. And then we tweak it before we start any kind of training based on the findings and the feedback from the actual groups. So it's very, very collaborative.
Okay, that's great. That's good to hear. Do we have any questions from the, Tom, did you have something you wanted to add there as well?
No, the implementations are strictly on Jen. When she talks about that, I just listen. So
Oh,
We
okay.
try to keep a tight timeline too. So my ideal sweet spot is in the, usually I like to be in the 4-month range, which I know can seem crazy aggressive, but you lose a lot of steam and momentum. And because we know that the, challenges with implementing ERP is that the burden on the user base at our clients is too much to bear. So we do all the heavy lifting when it comes to, gathering and importing kind of master file data. So customers, suppliers, tailoring, all that kind of good stuff based on, meetings and findings, fact finding that we do with our customers to ensure that it does roll along in a timely manner.
I have another, thank you, Jennifer. That's actually great. I appreciate the answer there. I have another question here from the audience. Hang on a sec. Paul just put in here, what's the cost?
So it depends very heavily on the user count and the amount of functionality. So we do actually have just recently come out with a little bit of a questionnaire that we can certainly look to provide to sort of give you some sort of a framework for where it would be, where you'd kind of land in that. I can tell you we're way less than some and more than others. Middle of the road.
I see Jason is putting something in. Actually, I'm going to see if we can just unmute Jason and he can just tell us what he's thinking here. Hang on a sec. Jason, let's see here. Do I got you off mic here? Let's see, allow. I think you can you unmute yourself? Angela, can you unmute Jason?
Oh, there, is that better?
That's better. Yeah, awesome. Jason, you had some comments. We had talked a little
Yeah,
bit about this yesterday.
when I've been researching, how does Discovery, is it more based on the shop side compared to the finance side? Is because a lot of different ERP systems, one will do more finance and lack on the shop. Some are more concentrated on the shop than finance. How does Discovery work on that?
So in my opinion, it's weighted. So the shop side's been a work in progress. Like Tom mentioned, that manufacturing ops framework is fairly new to Discovery. So it's an ever kind of evolving beast, right? So as we've transitioned some of our existing clients over to start using it. It's something that constantly gets revised and tweaked as we go. I would say probably prior, in my opinion, it would be more financially heavily weighted with data entry resources. And now we're trying to sort of move that to allow for more real-time kind of cost capture from the sort of shop level using that ops framework. But the more real time you can get with recording, materials and labor to work orders, obviously feeds into the cost kind of portion. So on my screen now, I've got this like real time job cost kind of screen up, right? So I can see where my projects are at a glance with one touch at all times. So, my estimated price versus my estimated cost to actual, I can drill into the actuals and review my estimate to actual. So if I'm, a project manager or an engineering type resource, I always have eyes on what's sort of happening from where the estimate kind of was. And from the shop floor, if I'm using the ops framework, that's where I can see sort of what's sort of happening in the actual granular level with the materials and that sort of thing. So we're truly trying to get better at being better on both sides.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks. And actually, Jason, thanks for that question. That was a great question. I have another one here actually on the reporting side. What other reporting and analytics capabilities does the Discovery Solutions software actually provide? And just basically what can you actually physically monitor in terms of your performance?
So we have a couple different options. So we've got our own internal central report writing tool where we can either train customers to write their own reports, right? So you can dream it, you can write it. Most customers we find don't really have the aptitude to get into the more complex reports that use Excel-based templates to sort of slice and dice the data. So we'll partner with companies. We also have a whole suite of reports that we have in our arsenal that, if we've written it for another manufacturer, odds are good with a couple tweaks, it will work for you in some way, shape, or form. And a couple of samples of that is I've got this job costing report that would be an example of a complex RC report that we've got where we've got slicers, right? So I can slice it by company. So they kind of dynamically will update in real time. Of course, I pick a bad customer there, but so then I can isolate it by that. And then we can write how you want to track your estimates to actuals at actual individual job levels. And again, these are dynamic. You can click the slicers to work it. Or we've got more simplistic reports. So here's an example of a work order estimate to actual, very, very simple. It's, basically a glorified Excel export, right? So it depends on your needs. The other reporting tool that we have is we have Framework where we work with Looker Studio. So we have dynamic Power BI style reports in an online dashboard that update in real time for you to use. So those are often good for both job costing and financial data as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Jennifer. I think we're at time. Well, I'm sure we could probably go another 10 or 20 minutes with all the questions we have, but I'd like to thank Tom and Jennifer today for joining us and for the great presentation. Thank you so much again. And if you have any questions or require any more information, please reach out to Tom and Jennifer. And they'll be happy to assist you at Discovery Solutions, or you can reach out to us here at the MEE Cluster and we can get you their information and forward that on to them, and they can sit down, and if you'd like to have your own personal demo, they can do that as well. We will be sending out a recording of this here very shortly. And again, thank you very much. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks again,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.